Leeroy Maddog was born as the oldest child to Don Jenkins Maddog in a gambling town called Valesword. Leeroy, a noble to the lord of the town, worshipped a pantheon of gods, the Lord of Light, Darkness, and the Goddess of Justice, who kept a thin balance between the two of them. Leeroy was taught from a young age to worship the God of Darkness and practice his teachings. Running the city took much work, so Leeroy was raised by Dawn's left and right hands, Jordan, Sin, and Reginald, the butler, who served them since the days of his grandfather's rule. Their responsibilities of raising the kid became their main focus after Don Jenkins disappeared when Leeroy was 10 years old. Soon after his disappearance, for the next 12 years, Jordan had taught Leeroy not in the ways of the Dark Lord as his father had wished, but the ways of the Goddess of Justice. She held the fragile balance between the darkness and the light that controlled the realm. Without her rule, the realm was threatened to be plunged into darkness or burn away in the light. Leeroy started to understand the importance of the balance of the realm and became an apostate to the Lord of Darkness. Eventually, Modius, a city resident with a mysterious connection to Leeroy, killed Jordan and escaped the city before any retributions or penalties could be ushered. Leeroy took an oath of vengeance and swore to find, hunt, and kill Modius no matter the cost for what he had done to his role model and father figure. Leeroy spent the next few months preparing his revenge on Modius, as well as a plan for his own right and left hands, Jackson and Delrod, to look over Valesword while he began his journeys. Leeroy hit the road with vengeance in his heart and mind. Within his first couple of steps outside of the city walls, he was struck with a vivid vision. Leeroy saw the collapse of the world along with all of the realms, a large snake that slowly choked and devoured the life away from all those who walked this world. The vision was scarring enough to leave many awake. Leeroy himself had many sleepless nights, wrestling with the troubling nightmare had been. How can he take revenge on Modius if he felt the world was close to perishing? Leeroy incidentally started to venture with other travelers who had experienced the same vision he had. Soon the team, like-minded, formed a hero group called the Wanderlusters to battle otherworldly events and prevent the rise of Ouroboros the World Snake. Through his travels, Leeroy learned the truth of his past. Modius was his younger brother. Don Jenkins had harbored a young boy from Miss Modius, who had lost her husband in the Great War. Not only was Leeroy not the true lord of Valesword, he was a bastard. Modius, his younger brother, was Don Jenkins' firstborn son and fulfilled the prophecy of the remnants, a prophecy that Leeroy incorrectly thought had applied to himself as the firstborn to Don Jenkins. Jordan had taught Leeroy the ways of the Dark Lord and encouraged Leeroy to kill his younger brother and embrace the power of the Dark Lord. Modius, in self-defense, killed Jordan and his older brother. Leeroy was able to cling on to life, making a pact with the Lord of Darkness through his oath of vengeance. Leeroy then ordered his closest allies to feed him a potion of forgetfulness so he could ensure he would follow through with his oath of vengeance. Leeroy woke up and had forgotten more than he expected. He woke up a new person and a follower to the Goddess of Justice, learning through triumph and perseverance to eventually become her true champion.
Cormage once lived in a tiny village by the name of Ferris Bay. The village resided deep within the forest, a week away from any major city. Cormage was nothing more than a humble hunter, only hunting enough to feed his parents and himself. While hunting his quarry, the hunt took him further out in the forest than he usually goes, when all of a sudden he saw a dragon fly overhead straight to the direction of his village. Cormage saw the smoke instantly. Hours away from the village, he sprinted back with all his energy to save anyone. When he arrived, he found nothing but ash and destruction. Looking for anyone, he stumbles upon a warforged by the name of Treeminator, and together they join the Wanderlusters. Cormage is on a journey of revenge, but also with the Wanderlusters hopes to do some good while also finding any clues on the dragon that took everything from him. While adventuring, he found his childhood friend Theala, and with friends both new and old, Cormage was finding closure. With his new sense of determination, will go to any lengths to protect his new family.
Treeminator was a lost soul, if anyone could even say he wielded such a thing. He was born in a laboratory where his creator saw fit to use an amber core originating from the ancient tree to breathe life into his constructed body. Sold to an ancient red dragon, Natas, he was programmed to bring forth the end of the material plane. However, one day, as Natas was flying over the high forest, he dropped Treeminator and was unable to locate him in the dense trees. Memory damaged from the fall, he stumbled upon a new being, a kinder being, a being he would now regard as his new master, Gibrick. For a short time, Treeminator understood what the word joy meant, but all of that came crashing down when Natas came to collect his weapon. During the rampage of his old master, Treeminator once again suffered memory-altering damages, and this time was left abandoned, forgotten by time itself as the seasons passed. That is until one fateful day, a wood elf ranger stumbled upon his dormant rest, rousing him once more to traverse the realms of mortals, but this time, instead of repeating his forgotten life as the villain or his second attempt as the victim, the fates will now show him the life of a hero.
Indigo Bird is a human artificer graduated from the Codex and worked in Halaruah for years after. When he was a kid, he worked for the guild in Baldur's Gate until he got run out of town for trying to take down his boss. He never thought he had a chance to be something more. But the Wanderlusters showed him a way up. With their help, he took revenge on his former boss and replaced him as a Don. He learned too that his family had a duty as keymasters to protect the realms from danger. For a moment, he thought he'd found a family and a purpose, and he could change the world for the better. But then he saw reality in its entirety and made a choice for its fate. He doesn't know if it was the right one. But now it seems like nothing matters anymore. No point in trying to change fate, no point in caring for anyone or anything. He doesn't know what to do anymore.
Thorin of Clan Drakken is a barbarian and blacksmith, hailing from the Dwarven capital. His clan had disappeared sent to fight demons and getting trapped in the abyss, the only members of the clan remaining in the material plane being himself, his wife, and their son. Being the last member of the clan left, he set out to adventure hoping to gain wealth, and most importantly knowledge on what had happened to the rest of his clan. His adventure began with Moradin, the great craftsman god of the dwarves, sending a vision of a great serpent that would destroy their world. This led him to other adventurers with similar visions, adventurers he now calls friends, the Wanderlusters. With the Wanderlusters, they made it their goal to assist throughout the realm, trying to become strong enough and prepare for this vision of doom. Their adventures together solve and unveil conspiracies, fight minions of dark gods, and fell great monsters, the greatest of these being Asmodeus, ruler of the Nine Hells. One of their own betrayed them, becoming champion of Asmodeus, and releasing him into the material plane, a threat they could not end without greater weapons and gifts. They went about finding artifacts of godly power for the fight ahead, and along the way Thorin found the great hammer imbued with Moradin's power in the abyss itself, where the last of his clans still fight demons. Thorin found that lifting the hammer was more than just physical strength, as it came with the burden of being the guardian of all dwarves and champion of Moradin himself. He was able to lift the hammer to become Moradin's chosen hero and fight to free Clan Drakken from the abyss. While in the abyss, Thorin discovered that his clan's disappearance was because the Dwarven King had sent them there to be killed on purpose. After returning to the material plane, Thorin confronted the king and had him ousted as a traitor, seeing a new election for king that had Thorin, the now champion of Moradin, voted in as the new king. With his new positions of power and the great hammer Tourbillon, Thorin helped the rest of the Wanderlusters get great artifacts of their own and end Asmodeus in a great battle. Now as king of dwarves and champion of Moradin, he still found many other threats throughout the world that need his help and the help of the Wanderlusters. That threat of the great world serpent still looms large, but Thorin shall stand strong and face down this evil.
Aralynn Valorien was born into one of the great moon elf royal houses, raised among marble halls, rigid traditions, and nobles who believed power belonged solely to those born into it. Aralynn disagreed. She believed influence came from alliances, information, and knowing how to use people others considered beneath them. Mercenaries, thieves, traitors, even the drow, all had value if one was clever enough to see it. The royal court viewed those ideas as dangerous, and rather than risk unrest, they handled the matter quickly. Aralynn was declared dead, her name erased from court records, and she was driven into exile with little more than the skills secretly taught to her by one of the kingdom's shadow hands. It's elegant, really. Years passed beneath false names and whispered rumors. Across trade routes and criminal circles, stories spread of an assassin known only as the Ghost, a figure tied to impossible infiltrations, dead nobles behind locked doors, and warnings delivered with unsettling precision. Aralynn never cared enough to deny the stories, nor confirm them. She traveled beside her companion Sirius, taking contracts, trading information, and surviving how she saw fit. Though capable of cruelty when necessary, she found little value in pointless suffering. Loyalty mattered far more to her than mercy, and betrayal tended to leave lasting impressions. Eventually, a simple contract from a grieving child led Aralynn towards something unexpected: the tales of the Wanderlusters. Stories of reckless expeditions, impossible victories, and people bold enough to chase glory where wiser souls would turn back. For the first time in years, the idea of belonging to something greater than survival began to appeal to her. Now, she travels with the Wanderlusters as little more than a poised exile with a talent for daggers and an unsettling habit of knowing things she should not. The name Ghost, however, has yet to mean anything to them.
Halakosh, who is a Kalashtar, was raised in a small village in the country and was taught how to use a sword and a little bit of magic from a young age. When he came of age, he went off to a Kori temple to learn cleric magic and bond with his Kori Vash, who is his life spirit. Once his training at the temple was done, he joined the army and rose to the rank of captain. He served in the army until his whole team was killed in action, and he was the only survivor. After Halakosh left the army, he went on to become a wandering adventurer. While on a quest to scout a specific cave where nefarious things were afoot, he was captured. Halakosh was then rescued by the Wanderlusters, who were on a quest to rescue Halakosh and one other, along with vanquish the evil in the cave, which turned out to be what looked like an undead-like orcs. After the Wanderlusters and Halakosh returned to the Silver Gauntlet, Halakosh was invited to join the Wanderlusters, which he gracefully accepted. The Wanderlusters as a whole then joined the Silver Gauntlet. In their adventures, Halakosh ended up meeting a female Kalashtar named Cortana, who, over time, helped Halakosh realize that he was to become the savior of their people, the Kalish Khan, which allows him to channel the spiritual energy of all of his ancestors.
Lazarus Longnow was once just a mere clockmaker. His studies in magic began when his family was killed by a plague, the clocks he created counting down each moment of their whimpering deaths. To escape their fate, he began studying the manipulation of time. As his experiments expanded, he destroyed fragile timelines and created moments of himself lost to time and space. He would meet the Wanderlusters, and after a rocky start, they would confront the reality-devouring serpent, but the war would always be lost. Fleeing deep into time, he worked to find more moments of the Lusters. Every time, they failed to stop the end of existence, and his moment in time may be the last gambit to save the world and all of reality.